Well, what is ahead for the housing market? Some revealing numbers just down indicate a looming slowdown, as we've discussed many times here. Homebuilder sentiment plummeting 12 points to 55. That marks the second biggest drop ever from the National Association of Home Builders, behind only the early days of the COVID pandemic. Now, anything over 50 is still considered positive for perspective, and most of the country is still showing a relatively strong market, but certainly looks like a cooling off looks inevitable. Let me just give you the realtor side of this, that I've talked to several realtors across the country who say, yes, they're seeing prices come down. They're seeing them come down from astronomical price points. People that wanted to put up a number that never made any sense except at the heights of the last 2 years. So again, I think this depends on how you interpret this trend. A cooling off, yes. No sign of a looming crash. What do you think, Rochelle?
And I think, honestly, it depends on which part of the country you're in as well. I know that in the DC, Maryland area, we're seeing prices in Maryland starting to come down. But you have to wonder, you also have issues with inventory still tight, and with this confidence survey also going down. A lot of people just gave up looking. When you look at where house prices have jumped over the past 2 years, when you look at where rent is going, a lot of people are like, they feel like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And so a lot of people are turning to home improvements. But obviously, when the cost of lumber was more expensive, people couldn't afford to do that either. We are seeing those lumber prices come down, so people should see some relief. But obviously, we're still waiting for a lot of this inventory. If sentiment is down and they don't think people are going to buy, it's going to continue to be a problem. Shauna?
Yeah, inventory is a huge issue when we talk about supply, lack thereof, I should say, in many markets, although that seems to be improving just a bit. A couple of the last realtors that we have had on the program are saying that there are homes out there. Pricing, though, is a big question. We've seen a sentiment drop pretty dramatically. Now we have to wait to see how fast of a drop we're going to see in home prices. And I think that's going to tell us a lot about the strength of the housing market going forward. So we got that reading out this morning. Housing starts are tomorrow. Another important indicator to look at. The forecast is for 1.59 million. That prior reading was for 1.55 million. Existing home sales on Wednesday, 5.38 million, slightly lower than what we had the prior month. So we are seeing a cooling, nothing like we saw in 2007, 2008, which is very important to point out. So this cooling could actually be pretty healthy here for the housing market.
Yeah, no real estate expert will tell you there is anything similar to the 2008 market. And you mentioned inventory, and a number that really flew under the radar because it was Friday around the closing bell. Redfin put out some numbers that showed inventory up, albeit 2%, but that's for the first time in 3 years. So that's a significant development. And Rochelle brought up a good point that it really depends on what region you are from. Circling back to where we started with that home builder sentiment, you nailed it there, Rochelle, because the Midwest, that sentiment is at 52. In the South, it's at 70. So a dramatically wide range depending on where you are. Housing down Atlanta, still on fire. No one can get near it. People are on the sidelines. So yes, excellent point on that.